All right, we are back to the Business Life and Coffee Show, and we're going to be talking about famous Black inventors. For far too long, and you know what? I don't even know if I can label this group of inventors as famous, because with fame comes notoriety, comes celebration, it comes just becoming a household name. And I don't know that every single entrepreneur on this list or every innovator on this list is famous. So I've got to back up a little bit and talk about that first and foremost and say these might be some names that you haven't heard of before, but the reality is they make our lives so impactful. And I really wanted to go through this list that I found on history.com. And history.com shows a list of 8 Black inventors who made daily life easier. So we're going to march through some of these here. And if you have been impacted by any of these, strong chance that you've been impacted by all of them. But if you've been impacted by any of them, I want you to drop a comment on my Facebook, on my Instagram, on my Twitter, and just, show some love to these incredible, courageous innovators who were innovating at a time when it was not okay to be Black. A lot of these people are from early ages where there was still segregation, discrimination, laws in place that made it harder to be an African American. And so we want to honor the legacy of people that have gone before us and mention these names. So the first one that we want to talk about is Sarah Boone, who improved the ironing board in 1892. So the ironing board is a product that's usually used just as much as it's overlooked. And in the late 19th century, it was improved upon by Sarah Boone. And so what she did was she expanded upon the original ironing board, which was basically, it was a wooden block. It was a slab for people to take this iron that they had set on the stove and heat up, and then you would just put your stuff on top of the wooden block. But what she did was she made the board narrower and made it more curved. She added curvature to this so that it was easier to iron garments like dresses, like jeans, and shirts. So the ability to take your garment and slide it onto the ironing board, we've got to give credit to Sarah for that. Now, I, truth be told, don't use the ironing board as much as I'm more of a steamer kind of guy or a dry cleaning kind of guy. But even if you look at dry cleaning and you see how that process works, there is a lot of putting garments onto things and steaming all around like a sleeve or a pant leg or what have you. So Sarah Boone, we celebrate you today. We also celebrate Mary Van Britton Brown, who in 1966 co-invented the home security system. Now, if you listen to a lot of podcasts, I am sure that you hear advertisements for home security systems because podcasting seems to be the vehicle for selling a lot of these things. So what I wanted to do is shout out Mary Van Britton Brown, who founded co-invented the home security system in 1966. And before security systems became a fixture in homes, an African-American nurse, Mary Van Britton Brown, so she was a nurse, she devised an early security unit for her own home. She spent nights home alone in Queens, New York, while her husband was away and felt unsafe with the high rates of crime in her neighborhood. On top of that, police were unreliable and unresponsive, so she created a device that would help put her mind at ease. She invented a system that used a camera that could slide into and look through 4 peepholes in her front door. The camera's view would then appear on a monitor in her home so she could survey any potentially unwanted guest. She added other features to the system, including a microphone to speak to anyone at the door, a button to unlock the door, and a button to contact the police. She and her husband took out a patent for the system in the same year, and they were awarded the patent 3 years later in 1969. Home security systems commonly used today took various elements from her design. Now that's from the History Channel's website. I read that description. But Man, for a nurse to create a patent for a home security system, that should be inspiring to all of us to say that, hey, you don't have to go to school for something. You can learn how to invent something on your own just from curiosity. All right, let's get into one that is a bit more famous. You probably have heard this name, Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan invented the 3-light traffic light in 1923. So that's the red, yellow, green. And the interesting thing about Garrett Morgan is that he invented this with only an elementary school education. So I get a lot of questions from people asking, hey, do I need to have a college degree or an MBA or some high level degree to make an impact and make a difference? And the answer is no, you don't have to. You can, I'm not saying have an elementary degree, but what I'm saying is that your curiosity and your desire to create things is not bound by the degree that you have in school. And so in 1923, Garrett Morgan came up with several inventions, but most importantly was the traffic light. Some of the other things that he did was the sewing machine and gas mask. I don't use a gas mask that often. Neither do I use a sewing machine, but those are some of Garrett Morgan's inventions as well. And what he did was he created this light in Cleveland, Ohio, because he was the first black person in Cleveland, Ohio to own a car. And as a motorist, he saw so many car accidents at intersections, and he decided that he wanted to create a yield component to warn oncoming traffic that there's about to be a stop coming soon. And so really he was responsible for making that transitional element of a stoplight, which is the yellow light. And so we are all grateful for him because he helped prevent a lot of traffic accidents, which would be scary to think about if there was no light. The next thing is the refrigerated truck, invented by Frederick McKinley Jones in 1940. And so if you have ever gotten something shipped, if you've gotten it shipped to your door, if you went to a restaurant and they had their meats and produce shipped, it's thanks to Frederick McKinley Jones, who in 1940 created the refrigerated truck. And what he did was he took out more than 60 patents throughout his life, including a patent for roof-mounted cooling that's used to refrigerate goods on trucks during extended transportation. And he co-founded the U.S. Thermo Control Company, later known as Thermo King. The company was critical during World War II, helping to preserve blood, food, and supplies during the war. So what I want you to do is check out this article. There are plenty other great inventors who have made our lives easier today. Everything from the microphone, James E. West in 1964, the automatic elevator doors, Alexander Miles in 1887. What else? The carbon light bulb filament, Lewis Latimer in 1881, and the color IBM PC monitor and gigahertz chip by Mark Dean in 1980 and 1999. Listen, these guys and women are incredibly vital to our lives these days, and so let's pay some respect. So who's your favorite entrepreneur? Who's your favorite African American inventor? Let me know, and I'd love to hear from you about that.